Check,
pass them around
check,
so
check.
people can check them out.
Mic check.
And if you got any ideas for questions,
Check, check, mic check.
anything that would relate to you
I
becoming
guess
a
it's
better
recording.
artist, or you understanding what artists have to do
Hope it's recording.
for a game, for concept work, for films, anything like that, start getting those generated right now.
So, all right, I have a. Ty told me y'all were designing some kind of sci-fi game, and he gave me some. He sent me some character details. So, by the end of this, I want to go ahead and just run through how to use the talk I'm gonna go through right now, and we're gonna talk though about character design and shape language. So, like again, my name is Miguel Coronado. My website's www.mciii.net. I'm also running an introduction to digital painting class at UT right now, and I'm live streaming all my class sessions. So if you want to just watch free talks about how to paint in Photoshop, those are going to be all on my blog. So it's mciii.net/blog. All right. Anyway, but this will all be recorded, and I'll give Ty the recorded video to post up on your class website, class blog.
We'll have our club website.
Club website. Okay. So all those resources will be available to you through that website, and I can send them some links to some other resources that are online. Because I taught myself how to digitally paint, and everything that I do in Photoshop I've learned in the last couple of years through online communities and resources. So you can learn to paint and illustrate the way I do for free online and become a professional artist without having to pay to go to an expensive university. You can go to an expensive university if you want to learn maybe the business side of like being a freelance illustrator is like running your own business. So when I'm not drawing, I'm contacting companies saying, hey, I'm available to work with you, and I kind of wait until they contact me, and once they contact me again, I'll get a job, start working on it. But let me go ahead and go into the real talk about character design and shape language. We don't have too much time, so I want to kind of speed through it, but you'll have the recording to refer back to, and I can post up some of this stuff too. I'll save out some JPEGs as slides. So we want to talk about character design, right? Character design is and specifically using shapes to design a character in a specific way to convey who the character is without having to tell anyone. Like, I should be able to show you a character and you can immediately say, that guy's a bad guy, or that guy's a good guy, right? And most of what I'm going to talk about is really intuitive and subliminal. So this stuff that happens in your brain because you're a human being, right? And then artists know how to exploit that. And what I mean by that is utilizing shapes. So let me turn off this slide and go over. Primary shapes. And you know what primary colors are. So primary shapes, let's see, red, a new layer. So let's see here. Let me just, oops, hit grayscale. Now I hit grayscale. There we go. Red. Red. Yellow. Let me try and get a decent yellow. That's actually kind of green. Okay. Red, yellow, and blue. The three primary colors. And I talk about primary colors, I mean in pigment. So like if you're a lighting designer and you're designing like for a theater, the primary colors are like cyan, magenta, and yellow, right? So in terms of paint, it's red, yellow, blue. So keep that in mind. So whenever someone's going to, at some point in the future, you're going to meet someone, you're going to say, primary color is red, yellow, blue. And they're going to say, no, it's cyan, magenta, black, which is like printing in ink. And then like cyan, magenta, yellow for lighting. And then there's RGB, which is, not RGB, but red, green, and blue, which is like LCD screens. So there's different aspects to it. But in terms of art, we're going to talk about these three. And I'm going to, basic art 101, you can mix these colors and you get every other color, right? Except in this case, because didn't have my layer set. But so red and blue equals green. Let's do a new layer. We do blue, and red and yellow equals orange, right? And then red, and blue is purple. From three colors, I get every color I want. Let me just, you can kind of see the colors forming. Yeah, it's a little weird here. So you got like a kind of green color now. Oops, new layer. Here, this one doesn't. Oh, there it was. It's right here on the edge. It's got the orange, and then the purple is right here. Right, so those are really light instances, right? So let me go ahead and just close these out. So keep that in mind. So we're going to take 3 basic things, which are shapes, primary shapes, and I'm going to talk to you about how to use them for character design. So the primary shapes are triangle, the circle, square, and the circle, right? With these 3 shapes, you can design whatever character you want, and these are the basic shapes that every other shape is made of. All the letters of the alphabet utilize these shapes. All the design all around you utilizes these shapes, and everywhere, every bit of design utilizes these shapes, right? So how do you utilize the shapes? We'll start with the square. What's your name? Tori? Can you just tell me, like, when you think of a square, like, what does that mean? Like, looking at that shape. Like, just key words whenever I say square. Box, okay. You got anything? What's your name? Yeah. Alex. Square. Like, when you think of a square shape, what do you think of? Cube, okay. Let's think a little more abstract. Emotion. Like, if you could sum up emotions in the square, what is the...
Like,
yeah.
uniform?
What was that? Uniform, okay. Uniform. We could use the word standard, kind of just basic, right? All the sides are the same. What's the other word? We can kind of use... we could say boring. There you go. Boring. Standard. Lame. All right. So, what else can you use though for the square? Like, think of like square shape. Anything else? Structure. Perfect. Structure. Strong. All right. Let's go to the next one real quick. Circle. Alex. Just okay. So think.
It's not structured like a square.
So it's not structured like a square is.
Unreliable, I guess.
Unreliable. Okay. What's your name? Yoraid. Okay. Circle. Emotions. Anything. Well, let's think of the difference between a circle and a square. Let me put them together now. Which of these looks friendlier? Right? But you all already knew that when I put them together is obvious. And I'm going to introduce the third dude, triangle. What's your name? Raphael. What's triangle? What do you see when you see triangle? Not as strong. Okay. What's your name? What was that? Abushed. Triangle. Emotions. Think of it. Like, remember, this was boring. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the boring one again. This might just. Okay. Which one do you trust? You trust the box, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? Like if you say I trust the box, it doesn't actually make sense to say that. But it makes sense when you see them together. Suddenly you're like, oh yeah, I trust the box, right? Because this guy's all. What does the triangle have that? Awkward. This guy. Let's use the word edgy, right? What if I did this to the triangle? What if I did that? What does that mean?
Right.
What?
Right.
Okay, that's a little literal. I could have done the other way. So okay, so right meaning direction. What's your name? Teresa. What do you see with a triangle like that? Play button on YouTube. What's your name? Shakira. Let me go ahead and just duplicate this. And I'll go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to just turn it back. So now, what's the difference between these two triangles?
One is like standing upwards and the other one just sitting down.
One, sorry, say it again?
One is upwards, one is like just sitting on the...
Okay, so now let's think about an emotions now. Which of these triangles is more stable?
The one in the middle.
Right here in the middle? What's your name?
Adrian.
Let's do Adrian first. What do you see between the two?
I was gonna say, since the other one's like facing up, it might be more happy than the other one.
More happy? So let me go ahead and do this now, and let's try something out. What if I did that to the triangle? What does that make you feel? Okay. Why are you cautious?
It looks pointy.
It looks pointy and sharp. So this one is dangerous. The other one's more stable, right? Triangles and points are like universally seen as like, blades, sharp spikes, points. Or let me add in like another bit of a triangle here. Now what do you see? Arrow. But what does arrow mean?
Like a literal
Dangerous. Literal arrow. What does arrow do? Direction. The move through the air, right? So if I were to do this, what does that mean? Right? But let me go ahead and give you another example real quick. Okay, which one is faster? Which of these sets? The sharper ones are faster. So by narrowing and adding more triangles, suddenly the one shape is faster than the other shape, but they're all triangles. So, I mean, in the end, technically those aren't triangles anymore because I took out to add more sides, but you know what I'm saying. The negative space is creating a triangle. So there's a negative space top of the positive space. And when I talk about negative and positive, I mean pixels. In terms of computers, I mean pixels. So there's pixels and there's no pixels. So let me get my original shapes now. Oops. And now I want everyone to really start thinking about character design as I talk about this. Which one of these do you trust the most? Circle. Which one of these is reliable? Square. Which one of these would you not trust? Triangle. Right? So already you kind of see how this is going to work with character design. So which one of these is the bad guy? Triangle. Which one of these is like the friendly fun character? Circle. And which one of these might be like the strong guy? Square. Okay, right? So this is how we're going to think about everything for the rest of this talk. And we need to start doing certain things. So I can start playing around with these attributes. I can take the square and do that. And suddenly it's two triangles, but it's not as dangerous as this other one, right? It's kind of teetering on a precipice. So it's not as stable as the original square. So if I were to just show these two squares, they're both squares. Like I said before, which one is the one you trust? Which one's the more stable one? The regular square, right? Right here? Alright, let's go ahead and turn that one off. Circle, triangle, oops, started combining shapes, didn't mean to do that. So what we're talking about right now, everything we're kind of doing is called, we're discussing primary shapes, but more importantly, shape language. And shape language is used everywhere, like I said. All these symbols represent a VCR, if you know what a VCR is, or a DVD player, I guess. If I turn that this way, suddenly it play, stop, record, right? Forward progression, square means stop, and then circle, we can think of that as openness, kind of you're recording, you're gathering everything in, because holes, circles, holes, you fall into a hole, right? Let's go ahead and do one more thing. So let's start playing a little bit with the shapes, and I'm going to move on to actual character stuff in a second. We have a triangle. And keep in mind, this stuff, you might not hear any of this kind of talk unless you find it online and look for it, or you go to like a college character design course. This is like some more advanced character design information that I actually learned it from a college course that a friend of mine sent me that he went to. He had recordings of it. So here we go. We're going to use one shape now and create 3 different emotions through just the shape. Okay. We already discussed that this one here, let me open up a new layer so I could give you like a that one. That's speed, right? Or movement. That's stability. What's this one? What does that one make you feel like compared to the other two? Imperial. Kind of like a yield sign. So let's think about another thing. Okay, so if that one's, let's see, if that one's movement between these two, think of real world objects will look like this. Now you said the yield sign. What looks like a triangle, three-dimensional, pyramid. What does a pyramid mean? Like, what do you think of when you think of pyramid? Ascension, around a long time. We could, so in composition and in character design, a triangle shape is a very strong shape because it's a very large base with a very skinny top. So there's no way that, like, I don't have anything that's a triangle here, but if I had a giant pyramid right here on my desk, I'd say there's no way this is just going to suddenly topple over unless I push it off the desk. But otherwise, you know, it's not going to suddenly flip, right? But what about this one? Would this suddenly fall over?
Yep.
Yes.
Right. So let's think of this in terms of danger or uneasy or maybe even intensity. Because all this mass is being, open that up, new layer. All that mass is being put right here. And it's like a high heel digging in. The weight, it's all right here, right? Okay. So now let's think about actual character design. Let's actually bring up some character stuff now. Let me close these off. I'm going to start with Bruce Timm and the Batman series. And this is, you might not have seen this Batman series. You may have. This was the on when I was like in high school and middle school. So, in the Bruce Timm Batman series, the show started off with this first guy here, this Batman. Let me get my drawing layer. This was the first Batman for the Bruce Timm Batman series, and they went for a few seasons. I think it was like 3 years, and they redesigned the whole show. And then they introduced this Batman in the new series, and then eventually this one. But I was in college by then, so, you know. I want to just quickly ask you, what do you see? And let's just isolate one of the characters. Let's isolate this guy because I think he's a better design than the rest of them. And I'll explain why in a second. What do you see in this character design that we just talked about? Lots of angles, but what kind of angles? Triangles. So we already talked about what triangles mean. They mean strength, they mean danger, they mean speed, they mean intensity. So let's break down some stuff. This is going to work for everything ever. And I mean everything ever, I mean like any Pixar cartoon, any Disney cartoon, any video game, any movie, any product design. This is how it works. All right. Oops, wrong tool. Do you see the shape he's making? The overall shape? And what did we already talk about the shape? What did we say it was? What was that? Unstable. That's a good one. What else? What else did I say? It was intense, right? So when you think of Batman, who do you think of? What do you think of? Dark, intense, possibly unstable, because he's a dude dressing up as a bat fighting crime at night, right? Psychopath. Probably not exactly psychopath, because notice this. Why is he not completely psychopath? He still has. Yeah, there we go. See that rectangle up there? And then let's look at another rectangle. The cape can change. The cape can change in such a way that it can become another triangle, right? Because we all seen Batman's cape come out. Or it could be a square. But he's squares and triangles. He's stability, intensity. He's dangerous. He's fast. He runs around at night in a cape. You know, like all these things, right? So now let's talk about another character that Bruce Timm designed. Let me turn this off. Now let's just take a look at. Let me pull Batman up. Here we go. And let me mask off Superman real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. It is pretty much the same pose here. Same character designer, same like channel, WB. So they're both superheroes. They're both in the DC universe. They both fight crime. But what's different about Superman than Batman? Right? More curves. Let's go ahead and let's switch the color for him just to do it. Just because. All right. So you still have this, right? You still have the triangle that's intense, right? Because Superman, like, he's pretty much invincible, and he's faster than a speeding bullet. You got the intensity. You got another square, but then you got these rounded shapes framing him. And Batman, he's got he's got more of a sleek look. And let's zoom in a little closer. This is going to pixelate a bit, but Batman's eyes are even little triangles. But Superman, his eyes, if you actually can zoom in, his eyes are pretty like that. They're kind of square with a circle in the center. The other thing you notice, square jaw. Where else am I seeing it? His cape. You know, obviously he's not Batman, so he doesn't have points at the end of his cape. His cape will never be pointy. But all these characters are going to be comprised of basic shapes: square, triangle, circle. And you can utilize that to talk about your character without having to say anything. So if I just showed you these two guys and said, which one's more intense, which one's more dangerous, you would have said Batman, right? You already know who Batman is too, but visually, even if you didn't know who Batman was, if you're some guy living in the jungle by himself and never seen Batman or Superman, and I showed you both of these characters and said in your native language which of these is more intense, you'd probably pick Batman. You probably wonder why I'm asking about that. Let's go ahead and take another character. We got Batman. We have the Joker. So let me mask off the guy real quick. So there's differences, right? There's two different characters. What are the differences you see in the Joker? And who is the one that said psychotic with Batman? What's your name?
Psychopath, actually.
What's your name?
Tristan.
Tristan. Your name's actually Psychopath. Psychopath, actually. My name's actually Psychopath. I'm actually crazy. All right, let's see. Let's change to green. All right, so Kristen? Tristan, sorry, not Kristen. Tristan, what do you see? What's the difference between these two characters?
The Joker is definitely a lot more like a triangle.
A lot more like, so he's got points and edges the same way Batman does, but what's something the Joker has that Batman doesn't seem to have? Or what's something the Joker has that Batman doesn't seem to have?
The Joker looks like he really stabs someone in the face jam.
Okay, but how? How is that? How does he look like he
There's a
can?
lot more like triangle.
Points and triangles. But Batman has lots of points, triangles. He's got these points. Why is one clearly maybe not a good guy? One's kind of a good guy. His head? Okay, head change. Okay, there's a shape change in the head. Joker's got a triangle head. Batman had a square head. But Joker's head also has these other triangles here. His eyes are triangles. His mouth is a triangle. His nose is a triangle. Something else you might not see right now is that Joker doesn't really have any straight lines on him. Batman's got like this shoulder. And if you look at the shadow, there's actually a straight line that cuts across the collarbone. Oops. Right? Let me turn that off. See the straight line right there? So, the Joker doesn't have that. The Joker's got slopes. Slopes. Slope. 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 There's nothing straight about the Joker. Right? Maybe the legs. Nothing straight about the Joker. Guys, we're going to talk about homosexuality. No, I'm sorry. But I'm not really an artist. I'm just here to. No, so anyway, so the difference between straight lines, curved lines. Let's just talk about that real quick. One last little shape example. I'll go on to the next few characters. Curved line, straight line. Which one's more stable? Straight line. Okay. Which one looks crazier? This one, right? The curves, the instability. This is why Batman's not quite psychotic when you see him next to that dude, right? Like once you see the Joker, you're like, oh, well, that guy's crazy. Like Batman looks kind of normal compared to him because he's he's kind of just standing there. And then actually, let's take a look at the other Joker designs real quick. Oh no, that's all the same show. Never mind. So there's no more Joker designs to look at. Let's go on to the last example. Then we'll talk about your project. Pixar, the movie Up. So here are the main characters in Up. We just talked about shapes and what the shapes mean. So let's quickly break it down. What's your name?
George.
George? Tell me about this guy.
He's entirely circles.
Correct.
He's a giant marshmallow.
All right.
Looking for a blue marshmallow.
What about this guy?
Squares.
Yeah.
He's a square.
Giant square face.
Right. And then the dog.
Circles and squares.
Circles, and he got some curves. Circle. He's got happy. You know, like he's got this happy, soft, right? He's not like. What about? Okay, take a look at.
He's not Batman.
Yeah. So let's think about this dog, right? And now I want to point out some other dogs real quick. Right? Which one of these is the leader? Okay. Which one of these is probably the most dangerous? All right. Which ones are the not as intense? The ones short. All right. So now you kind of see how this is going, like. And I could have just showed you this. I could have showed you this first and nothing else, and said which one's more intense. And you would have been like, well, it's the German Doberman Pinscher. And I would have been like, oh, okay, yeah. So and you would have just kind of knew that, right? And the reason you know that is because subliminally, oops, I didn't have all this available. Circle, triangle, square. We can also look at the development of the character. So now you're working on your game, you're working on your movie, you're working on your comic, whatever it is, and you want to tell the story about how, the story about. Has everyone seen Up? Everyone, yeah. Okay. There's some spoilers. If I do spoiler alert, I'm gonna spoil Up for you. Someone dies, and it's not the old man, but it's the kid. No, it's not the kid. Sorry. super dark. So, in Up, you have a friendly character. And kind of a crotchety old man that's not really any fun. And eventually, the old man needs to kind of learn that there's happiness in the world, right? Okay, so there's a change that happens. Now, in a novel, you just you have to write it out. You have to, show it. But in a movie or a video game or comic book, you have another part you can utilize to tell your story, which is the visuals. You could visually tell the story without actually saying anything. You could be completely deaf, watch Up without subtitles, and know what's going on through the expressions, but also the way the characters move and interact. So, let's go. It's all right. The main character in Up meets a little girl who he's friends with, and he's still got the square attitude, but look how round he is when he's little. But of which of these two is the crazier character? Right, the one left. She's also another thing you got to utilize with character design is asymmetry. Asymmetry signifies a little instability, a little kind of like back and forth, teetering, unbalanced, right? Completely symmetrical, except for this little arm, but you don't really see that. The actual character design, he's pretty much completely symmetrical, right? So they get older and they get married. You see the differences, how they're still their same character. Which one's kinder, even though they're both smiling? He's pretty round still too, but he's getting a little more square. But of the two here, which one would be probably the kindest one? Probably her, because she's all circles and soft shapes. And they get older, he's still got this nice happy face, got these soft curves. But then in the movie, and if you haven't seen it already, spoiler alert, she dies early on. She's not in the movie. So what happens when we meet him? Look at who he is now. He's not. There's no more curve to his chin, no more curve to his jaw. The only thing somewhat curved is his nose. His ears are even angled. There's straight lines. His hands are straight. His legs are straight. His posture has changed. So I could have just shown you this, and you could see that something had happened, right? Something, and also he's alone, right? The woman's not with him anymore. So like, so you got one kid, innocent, progress and get older. Oops, the dog dies. No, the dog doesn't die. Okay, next, and then a couple more characters. The villain of Up is this dude, and if you haven't seen Up, sorry, I just ruined it for you. But what's the difference between this dude? Oops. And let me mask off this thing. 17? Okay, great. We'll flip over to the thing now. Okay. Between the two characters, we got the intensity triangle again. We have a lot more points. His nose is pointed. He's still got a square jaw, but overall he's not as square as the main character, right? And if you were to see a side profile, he's a little more crooked. And that's also another thing. Villains typically more crooked, more no straight lines, no smooth curves. So let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to open up a new document, and we're going to start working on a particular. So there's a race of vampires in your game you're working on.
Yeah.
Let's just explore some ideas real quick with the vampires. Okay, so I'm just going to pull up the description. Okay, so Empire of the Void, vampires in the universe that are a plague that devour all life forms of the world. They are hideous to most other races. They ravage world to world. They are susceptible to forms of radiation such as that from the yellow sun. They wear yada yada yada. So they wear full coverings. They got to avoid sunlight. They like the blue sun. Yellow sun's not good. They're quite fast. Their teeth and claws can destroy things. They're really sharp and dangerous. They have ornate ships and armor. Other effects are usually very ornate. Their religion, they have religion and prophecy. So, of the shapes that we want to start out with, what's your name? What was that? Jose? What shape do we need to start with? It's a race of vampires. They're called the Empire of the Void. Of the triangle. Great. Let's start trying a triangle. Let's just start with any triangle. I'm just going to start painting now, and we're going to break up several ideas. And let's just do something like that, okay? Let's tone that down a bit. Alright, and at this point I'm just going to start working and talking a bit, and if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask whatever you would like.
If you're watching the stream, if you guys have questions, put your hand up. I'll call on you, and you can throw it out. Okay, Adrian, what do you think?
Are you gonna make them look more ghoulish or more like a human?
So that is up to the team, right? Let's say this is a real job I got. I got to send in some designs for a vampire race in outer space. It's for like a new board game or something, or a video game. And they just need to get some ideas down so they can start thinking about. This is real cartoony. We're going to go from cartoony and we're going to kind of jump up to a little more detailed. But I'm going to kind of work a little fast here just because, time.
So in putting together some of these concept ideas, you're keeping in mind that there's various genres or various feels to the art that you've got to keep in mind. You want to not restrain yourself to just one type of art style.
So like if they contacted me and said we need to be super cartoony, I would literally send in kind of like images kind of like this, right? I'm doing straight up like vampire right now, but I'm trying to move on to a full painting that I'll try and get done. We could start, some of the ideas. Let's just kind of give him some pointed hair. Now right now it's just vampires, not really utilizing the space idea yet. And also, this is super cartoony, so I'm going to jump into a different style in a second. We'll kind of show you a breakdown of how we would start. And so whoever the art team is, your job is to start exploring ideas and shapes. And it's about speed at this early stage. It's not about making something look beautiful. You got to get your idea down as fast as you can so you can show the rest of your team what you're thinking. All right. So all the artists need to sit. They got to figure out. So these are vampires. They're covered up. They don't like the sun. That's typical of most vampires. Let's go ahead and shrink that down. That's like super cartoony, right? It's really fast, really basic. Let's think about another kind of style. Let me just turn that off just for the sake of.
Kind of what we were thinking, Mr. Cornell, was
Yeah.
you know the vampires you made for the vampire film?
Oh yeah.
Did?
Like the monster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they're missing their nose, lots of teeth. Eyes are very inhuman.
So
Really round, maybe. Or triangle. Now that I know better. Which
Round.
you kind of did a national treasure on me. I'm like looking at the Avatar characters. I'm like, oh yeah.
oh yeah.
Korra definitely does have a lot more squares and circles.
Yeah, and like the Navi and it works with everything. It's like one of those like when you learn basic storytelling,
Yeah.
you suddenly go, oh man, everything is the same.
Yeah. That's all.
So I've drawn a ton of vampires. One of the reasons I picked the vampire race. This is not the best vampire. Okay, so this is the other thing. Don't be precious, right? You're designing something. Move on. If you mess up, if you don't get it down with the first few strokes, just get on to the next thing, right? And if you're working digitally, just you have infinite amount of paper and ink to work with. So just don't really worry about being precious with the image.
So what do you do if you want to try and take on new styles? Like especially for these guys and myself.
Yeah.
The style that I've created for myself, a little shorthand.
Yeah.
But how do you start picking up a new style, or is there a certain
So
styles you should go for first?
you got to figure out. So style is. If you're ever practicing, just generally practicing drawing, you should just try and draw as realistically as humanly possible. And stylization comes in depending on the project, and then also stylization is the art, basically your artistic voice. So my style of artwork is very different from other artists because they choose to leave in certain things and leave out certain things. The way I choose to leave in certain things and leave out certain things. So in terms of a new style, if it's a project where you're being brought on, they're going to give you a style sheet. So you would, since it's your project, y'all need to create a style sheet. So someone's going to need to draw the vampire face or the whatever character's face, and everyone's going to decide this is the direction we're going to go, right? Once the direction's decided, art team, that's the job. You got to draw what the project is. You don't get to draw whatever you want or however you want. You have to work for the greater good because the end project isn't going to be your drawing. The end project is going to be a video game or a comic book or a movie. So you got to start remembering that this is all just ideas to get over to the 3D guys or the animators, and your drawing may never be seen ever. Right? Unless in the real world, the professional world, you often aren't allowed to show your work, and there's some companies that won't ever allow you to show your work. So like you can work on these huge movies, and they'll just say like, yeah, we don't want you to show it ever. And then that's it. You spent like a whole year working on a movie, and you don't get to see anything. So, all right, I normally paint, so let's go ahead and start painting. This is the basic idea I'm going to work with.
What do you guys think of that? I kind of like that. You like that?
Let's do some. So I'm going to do just.
So you actually build a palette as you go, or?
Yeah, so I work in grayscale first, and then I'll add on color afterwards. In Photoshop, you can use color layers or overlay layers, and they have similar layers in Sketchbook. You can set your layer to multiply, I think color, overlay, and I think there's a screen mode.
Yeah, in Sketchbook we can do several layers, and we can. Now, why are you doing it separate?
So I'm doing just another idea, and,
Oh.
and now I'm using just tone. So versus, so there's no lines in this idea, because now I'm trying to think about how the forms are going to read. And lots of the speed I have comes from drawing all my life and practicing drawing just fruit or like a spoon, set up a lamp, and just you do a still life, and it can be just as boring as it sounds. You sit and you draw for like a couple hours an apple, and you make it look as realistic as possible. right? So here we go. Right now I'm using the lights and darks to push and pull what's supposed to be coming towards us and what's supposed to be going away from us.
In the same way that a 3D artist might sculpt.
Yeah. So right.
So lighter is coming towards us, darker is recessing.
So let me add a layer. Where's my hotkey? And I use a special in Photoshop. And if you use Photoshop, there's a way to make a custom panel here. So I have a bunch of stuff I always add on right here. So let's just get in here and show off the eye more. And I cut in.
So like a separate toolkit.
It's the actions panel. The actions panel has a setting which I only learned about this year that allows you to turn it into a button mode. So it's basically a custom menu of whatever I like to do. So I don't like using the keyboard when I work. I like to just kind of be able to work from my tablet like I'm working on my sketchbook.
How long did it take you so you could finally disassociate yourself from drawing on paper to drawing on a digital tablet?
A few months when I really start, like when I just sat and did it. You get over it pretty fast. It doesn't seem like it at first, but then once you do it, when you just sit there and you just force yourself to draw with the tablet, it'll suddenly you'll forget was ever an issue. And at this point, I like drawing digitally better than like the Cintiq is a giant HD screen you can draw on. I don't like drawing on those at this point because it's this idea that I'm gonna have my hand on the screen and I can't really see what I'm doing. I can see the whole image the entire time now, and so I actually prefer the Intuos tablet better.
Thanks for doing that voice. I never knew how to describe that.
The
Oh my god, it's kind of
Yeah.
So now it's like I can just see the whole image. I can got hotkeys set up on my tablets. I can just flip real quick because you look at your drawing in the mirror to see the issues because if you're right-handed, everything skews to the right. If you're left-handed, everything skews to the left. Unless you really train your hand to not skew. Alright, so let's take this head. Let me explore this. So let me select this guy. I'm trying to work fast. I'm working like stupid fast right now because the time is of the essence. But you have at least spend at least like 10 minutes on each sketch. Give yourself some time. Don't try and do everything in 10 minutes. There we go. Okay, so now I got two options. I'm gonna start playing. Which one is it? Yeah, this is the top one. I'm gonna start changing the shape a bit. Oops, close that. Let's increase his eye size. Okay. The wrong layer. That's the wrong one. No, this should be the right layer. Oh, okay, that's just the other part you don't see. This is a liquefy tool.
We have CS6 guys too, so we can do a lot of these things.
Liquefy tool, depending on your machine, it could be really taxing to your machine. But I'm just going to use the liquefy tool to look. So I'll make them more gaunt, bigger eyes, because nocturnal creatures typically have bigger eyes, or they have really little eyes and like much bigger ears. So I'm going to increase the ear size. Some of this, so when I was a little kid, I used to want to be a zoologist. So I used to, all through elementary school, whenever we had free time in class, my favorite thing to do was go over to the encyclopedias and just take an encyclopedia, find an animal, and just draw the animal, read about the animal, right? And I didn't think of drawing as anything special until sometime in like second grade, and someone was like, "Hey, you're good at drawing," because back then like everyone's good at drawing, everyone draws, and then eventually certain people just stop for some reason. But everything in art can be learned and improved upon through practice. No one is naturally gifted in art. The same way no one is naturally gifted in sports. The guy that's naturally gifted in sports happens to play sports all the time, so he's improving nonstop and working out all the time. The same way someone who's good at art draws all the time, or someone that's really good at reading that knows how to pick up information and research. There we go. They read all the time, so they're a lot faster at reading and gathering information than someone that doesn't. For instance, I don't have an easy time reading. I listen to audiobooks often because I get easily distracted when I read and I want to go draw. So audiobooks are my ways to listen to stories, and especially when I'm working. If you're going to work late night or something, you set up, put on an audiobook, start listening, and just sit and work. And it's kind of like watching TV without watching TV, because you're listening to the story and you're not actually having to stop and take your eyes off. Because I can't take my eyes off this because I'm working the whole time. I'm going to boost up the levels a bit just to give it some more contrast. Okay, let's make another one. So what I'm doing now is called iterations, iterating, and the artist, this is what you're going to get used to. For the first few sketches, it's all about getting ideas out, as many ideas as you can. Oops. Just copy paste. Let me increase the canvas size a little bit. Move down. Okay, so we made the eyes bigger, we made the head a little smaller. Let's make the eyes smaller this time. I'm just going to paint that in, though. I make him look a little eviler. It's not too evil right now.
Although I can't see the guy with the big eyes, like his jaw just unhinging all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Oh, I like the eyes that he's got going on.
Kind of older.
I think there's different emotions.
Yeah, yeah.
Like one is like calm, one is stunned, one is angry.
So the next things, yeah, there could be different emotions. The next thing you can do is so like if okay, you get all these characters done and you show them to the team and everyone's like, we love the way number 3 is going. Go back and show us different ideas with number 3. So you take number 3 and you go, okay, well, it's like a big forehead. He looks a little older, a little angrier. And but like someone's like, well, we want to see like the female versions of number 3. So you got to draw the female version. We want to see number 3 like screaming. What does he look like when he's screaming? Because we got to animate that. Yeah, okay, let me show you what he looks like when he's screaming. And then if it's a video game, it's like, how does he attack you? Like, how does he, what's the attack? What does he, how does he hurt you? It's like, well, I guess I'll draw that. You got to draw like what he looks like when he's attacking. Let's see. What does he look like with his mouth open? Select this jaw. Copy, paste.
So it's 5 guys. If you need to leave, it's cool. If you can hang out a little bit, we're gonna hang out a little bit. But if you gotta go, I understand. Gotta go fix the late bus. And we'll gather this later, so you guys can all see it,
Yeah.
where it ends up.
We'll continue on. And we'll put the video online so y'all can watch it later. Catch up on anything else. Hopefully it's recording my voice, otherwise it's just going to record everything later. It never showed me the settings.
There you go. And as you're on your way out, show Mr. Coronado a little love. Oh yeah, didn't get a chance to see his high school sketchbook. I think it's really cool to see. I really like that. I like all of them. I've had some time more, but that third one definitely is nice. Yeah, man.
That option.
Looking at that, I was like, I've done some stuff like that. If I just spent the time, I could actually be good.
Shortcut to actually expand your canvas like that, or is that?
It's just the crop tool.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that's what Mr. Rodriguez is trying to put together.
Yeah. You can shrink the canvas or enlarge it. G D X G.
Well, show me.
Yeah. Let me see.
Really?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Bye, Alex.
When I was in high school, one thing that was frustrating is that no one gave me real feedback on my artwork. And I wanted to be a professional artist, and it's hard to find someone that will give you real feedback. So if you want anything in terms of feedback, let me know. If you're trying to do something in particular, let me know what that is.
I'm gonna show you my best.
Okay, that's that. Always show the best work.
And digital. But I can show you my best work on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Let me find a way to stop this recording real quick and.
Are you just doing screen capture?
Yeah, it should be screen. It should be screen capturing. Otherwise, I can just record a live stream and just send a new version, and I'll have more time to talk and work.
Right.
So either way, one way or another, let's make him look a little skinnier.
For that, what's this one?
It's just a liquefy tool, just pushing
How
and
much that
pulling.
one cost? Like for the
This one, this is about $550,
$550?
$550.
There's a little cheaper ones, but
Yeah, the cheaper ones work just as good. Let me stop the screen.